Action. Okay.
Well, welcome everyone to the conversations across the pond. You're wondering why across the pond? Well, Steve actually lives in America and I live in Europe. So that's why we've called it Conversations Across the Pond. So, without giving you too much insight about what we do or who we are, etc., you possibly get all that information in the bio, and you can find us on our Facebook pages, and we'll give all that details in the descriptions of either on YouTube or wherever this is going to be displayed. But actually, we're two guys who've come together for a certain reason. We met each
Hmm.
other through a group of coaches, mentors, and other types of modalities, and we've actually struck a bond together. And this bond has actually wanted us to create some conversations across the pond. So I'm going to let Steve introduce himself a little bit, and
Yes.
then we're going to jump into it.
Awesome. Thank you, Richard. This is fun. What an honor and a privilege to be with you. 6 hours ahead of me. How awesome it is that we can have a conversation across the pond and in different time zones across the world. It's just a beautiful part of technology of today that we can talk about leadership and we can talk about life and everything that comes in between that, such a distance as this. And so thank you for introducing, how we met. And the cool thing is one of the things that got me fired up as I've been talking to you over since last fall, where I had the privilege of meeting you and the honor of getting to know you as a dear friend and a colleague, or I was thinking comrade too this morning. I was thinking about I get to meet with Richard this morning, and I was excited about this idea of conversations across the pond because the things that we'll be discussing are things that are relevant to everyone, not just leaders, but employees. And I think some of the work that I've been doing, I know you too, never had a word to it before. We use this word called trusted advisor. It wasn't something that I knew what it was, but as I've been working with people and leaders and organizations, and over time building this level of trust and relationship and friendship, things come up where these discussions that like me and you are going to be having, where things come up and it's like, what do you do with this, and what does that mean, and how do I handle that challenge, or maybe I see an option to take this course and to move this direction. And so it just spawned this almost like this, I want to say new role, but an expansion of the role that I do as a coach, as a mentor. And it took it kind of blew it into a whole new level, which connecting with you has really just helped me blossom that idea. And so, and some of the things that me and you see, whether it's in Europe or America, that are relevant to anyone. And so I'm excited about having these conversations with you that hopefully will be a value added for those that will, tune in and listen to, our conversation.
It's always value added, Steve. Always. We
Yes,
have some fun, but we explore things and we're creating
that's it.
possibilities from it.
Yeah,
Steve, what's on our agenda for today? What have you
man,
got planned?
I'm fired up. You know why I'm fired up? It's I don't know. We were talking a little bit ago, maybe last week, about the research coming out and from the Gallup poll reviews, from last year in the workplace. And the reason why I was excited about this is, as I kind of have it in front of me here, it's because it really affirms what you and I know to be true in the workplace today with leaders and employees and managers. But it also is just kind of it shows where the heart of where a lot of the attention needs to be. And I was thinking about this idea of this quiet quitting in the workplace. It's more relevant than ever. I know you see it probably where you're at in Europe, and I certainly see it in organizations here in the United States and Canada. And I've been seeing this idea, and it was interesting on the report here that the quiet quitting employees, they talked about what would you change about your workplace to make it better was the question, right? And so a lot of people go,
Yeah.
oh, it's paying benefits. If I got paid more, I would stay. Well, it's there, but it's not the top thing. It was 28% of people that filled the survey said, and this is worldwide, global, this is all over the world, is 28% said pain benefits. So it was there, but it wasn't the top. How about wellness and well-being? I'm big on that. I love that. But it really was 16%. So it was relevant, but it wasn't,
16%.
yeah, it wasn't the
Wow.
top. And because a lot of organizations, as you know, are throwing a lot of money,
Yeah.
thousands of dollars on wellness and well-being. But the number one was the thing that they're missing is it was 41% of the workplace said engagement and culture. And so the cool
Wow.
thing is they told us engagement and culture. The one thing they didn't tell you is what does that even mean? And
Yeah.
so with me and you this morning, I wanted to draw out what the heck does this word engagement mean? What does culture mean? What is it that you and I are seeing that adds more flavor, more practicality to this? Because when they share this, this cool thing about sharing a poll review is the fact that you get clarity on at least what it is, but you don't know how that takes shape, what leaders can do about this, because engagement you can go in any direction. Somebody goes, what's engagement mean to me? Or what does culture mean? You have a lot of millions of dollars thrown at the DEI work of today with diversity, equity, inclusion, and because they're trying to throw things at it without really understanding, I think, what this idea of engagement and culture is that people are wanting. So we'll kind of pitch that question as we work at that today, Richard. But we'll start with the word engagement first. When you hear the word engagement in the context of really anywhere, it could be, in this case, we could say the workplace, but really relationships with
Hmm.
with people in our lives, not just in the workplace, but engagement overall. What does that look like to you in your world?
Yeah. When you saying that, it brought up many different images for me of what engagement was happening for people, even for ourselves. That engagement is having some form of communication, being clear, being authentic. And it's not about being authentic in asking like the manager or the director to be authentic. It's ourselves that we have to start with.
Mm,
How are we engaging with each other? It's quite easy to say, well, it's their fault because they're not engaging.
mm,
It's quite easy to pass the buck to someone else. But if we took an observation of that, we would be saying, hey, this is actually relating to me because I create this reality. I'm creating who I'm being when I go into the office, or I'm creating who I'm being in front of this Zoom call, or I'm being who I'm in front and someone in the street. And in any modality, in any sport or anything, it's how you're showing up. Are
mm.
you really committed? Are you really committed to being there? You have a choice. I've got to go to work. No, you have the choice to go to work. You choose to go to work. So when you choose to go to work, you can have fun at going to work. Yeah,
Mm.
but it's the mundane job. Well, how can you look at it? What you could change? Who could you be to change it so it's more entertaining or more looking at your workload and say, well, these are my tasks. Well,
Yeah.
instead of calling them tasks, call them something else. Call them a let's get what I can complete list or whatever you can create is a possibility. But it is a shift of understanding how you create that engagement.
Mhm.
And that spin off then creates the engagement with everyone else that you come across.
Yeah. What I hear there is key. Thank you, Richard, for elaborating on that. That it starts with me. Simon Sinek wrote a book called Starts with Why. But people still miss that mark when they're trying to look for this why out there somewhere. It's really me inside, is what I hear is the engagement starts with me. And everything you see in the workplace today, whether it's DEI work or lean leadership with the Toyota way of doing business or anything that's out there now, it's great modalities, but it's not hitting home at where to start. This
Yeah.
place that we work on within ourselves is what I'm hearing there as you're sharing that is it starts with me and how am I communicating and engaging and showing up. And this will be probably the next part in our series will be you have the answer to burnout in that. We won't go there today, but you just spawn this idea of this burnout in the workplace today. You actually spark the light there in that direction too for purposes of this morning, though, I think the key, like you said, on me. So what's something, when you think about the work that you and I do, when you think about being engaged with ourselves, and it starts with communicating with me and having the power of choice and choosing to show up with I get to, I want to, I choose to umbrella. And maybe there's the have tos within our job, have to, shoulds, and must that maybe come from a job, say per se, that my boss needs me to do, or the customer or the client needs me to do as a business owner. And what does that look like to kind of up level, almost like the purpose and the mission, like to be able to say, like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to give my best, no matter if I'm the janitor or if I'm the CEO. I see the choice that I get to be here. No one's pulling my leg. I'm not in a prison. How do we shift to that level within ourselves to engage at that before we even step into the workplace, where we're showing
Yeah,
up the higher why of what we're doing, what we're about?
it's like a game or a challenge. Challenge the beliefs. A
Mm-hmm.
game changer of beliefs. We're always, oh, this is my belief, this is how it should be, and this is how it should be, and this is how it should stay like this all the time. But actually, if you actually understood that belief was something that experienced in the past, hey, what about right now? Like us now, we're exploring this video conversation, we're
Mm-hmm.
exploring the conversations across the pond. It was a shift in the belief that anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the content going to be? Well, we'll explore the content. We've got an agenda, and we're going to have a conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
That belief of taking away what could have been and where it is going to go, etc. But actually having fun. And that's what we do in our conversations. We do all the time, Steve, every couple of weeks. We're having these conversations, but we create something from them.
So
And the
I
belief,
I
go
hear
ahead.
something in there too, as you said that. It's almost like a level of curiosity and imagination and interest. There's almost like you said, the observer. I was listening to a podcast this morning on being an observant, and you just mentioned those things as you're talking. You got me thinking about being an observant of possibility around us, instead of just our limited view of walking in, doing my work. Okay, this is XYZ I have to do today. You're opening it up to a whole new arena of possibility the way you're talking. Like you're talking about noticing not just our why we show up, but everything around that, all the little
Well,
details.
the little details, like the actually the how the person walks across the street with you or walks alongside you. Notice how the people are sitting on the metro or the tube or whatever. Notice how people are sitting in their car, just observing what they're doing. You know, Noticing a person on a bus or anything and just smiling at them. What does it give you to just smile at someone? Could be an
Mm-hmm.
elderly person, young person, just smiling and acknowledge that they're a human
Mm-hmm.
being in front of you and you're appreciating for who they're being, for who they are. I had that this morning. I had
Mm-hmm.
that. Just saw someone in the car opposite me and I just smiled and they smiled back.
Yeah. You think
You
about
never know.
that. You got me thinking about, I don't know why I went there, but I think about my youthful self, right? The 5-year-old Steve, and sitting in front of the television watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood in the 70s and early 80s. I don't know if you see that in Europe.
No, I'm afraid you're across the pond, so I don't see
Ah,
things.
so give you an example though. If you ever get a chance to check out Mr. Rogers, and those that know him, if you don't know him, he's now of course passed on, but he was one of those guys that was just present in himself. When he did his TV show, he did it as if he slowed down time, because he was so curious, so interested, from the youngest kid to adults that came in. You talk about these issues that today, like diversity and issues in the workplace. It started from that, like you said, like he came in ready to be curious from the gate. So you could tell he did things within himself, kind of like this word that my coach uses called tuning my instrument, where it's like I'm preparing myself to be curious, that smiling is natural. I don't have to fake it and go, let's just smile because I know I'm supposed to. but it's a natural response to my heart. I love that saying, like out of the mouth, the heart speaks, right? It's that part where it's, what do I need to do to nurture myself? So I wake up smiling. So I wake up going, I look forward to this. I look forward to people that might even think differently to me in the workplace, people that maybe otherwise I couldn't stand because I was judging and assuming who they are or how they're showing up. And I shift that to go, maybe I don't know enough about them because I don't know enough about myself first.
And when you were saying all that, what
Mm-hmm.
popped up me was as our next part, which is about culture, because that really kind of connects together. Because you can go and visit, like, let's say, a big university, and they show you all the faculties and they show you all this information. But what's the culture? What is the culture? How do the students and the professors interact? How do they communicate? How they work together? Do they show up being curious of going to university and studying and betting themselves
Mm-hmm.
is an example, not for the university. They're doing it for themselves. And the professors and the teachers and all the staff are there to support them to better
Mm-hmm.
themselves.
So it sounds like there's already a level of, I want this beyond just a stamp of a degree or certification or the letters behind my name. I want this because almost like I think of this as like there's a higher overarching mission, like a lifelong pursuit of just wanting to experience all that life has. And this college, whatever it is, this season of my life is just one part of that. But I'm not going to
Exactly.
expect someone else to fulfill something within me that I can do within and for myself.
But you have that the same in sport. You have
Mm-hmm.
the same in all the different types of industry that is out there. You know, the person who's actually washing the dishes in a restaurant may be very happy in washing the dishes,
Mm-hmm.
knowing one day they'll have their own restaurant to run and and encourage people to also enjoy and share and be engaging with their work.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, it's not just, oh, I've got to do this job because, you know, I need the money.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing the job because it's bringing something to you, your experience. Every moment we're having an experience that we're having to go through that ring, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that ring of fear, the ring of fire, whatever metaphor expression you wish to say, but that experience is teaching us something.
Mm. So it sounds like what you're saying is we have a choice of how we enter into that. So we have, and I'll give an example of a story here in a second that, and I'm writing down as you're saying that, just giving me train of thought on this idea where, like you said, experiences. And I love this because what we're taking is in what does engagement and culture mean with with actually where people can come away and be like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Because the Gallup does a good job doing the studies, but they don't know how to make that work within a company, right? That's where I love what you're saying is with engagement. Am I engaged with myself? Do I know myself? Am I excited about who I get to be and bring into the workplace? And with culture, there's this attitude almost of like caring. Like I want to come in and really interact and get to know and like the janitor, like I might be the person that's the, maybe the lowest income earner or lowest on the leadership totem pole, but really I might be the happiest, the most fulfilled even versus the CEO or the person at the top that we assume we want to get to that place and I will be happy. You're showing us happiness is from the inside out when it comes to both engagement and culture. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
someone else's job to do. It's my
Mm-hmm.
job to bring myself into that and attract and to draw to almost like pull in this other people into the conversation versus expect others to be this way or to convince others to show up that way or even expectations, which is I think why a lot of the DEI work has fallen off to the side a little bit because of what you're talking about is this heart posture, right, Richard? This heart
Yeah.
posture of who we're being and elevating to making everything an enjoyable experience, just like the 5-year-old self, right? We wake up, we see kids. I know you have some children, I do too. And when we see stages of their life, and we go, wow, what's that like when we wake up with all curiosity and possibility and no story, no narrative, no past, or even too far into the future, which is where anxiety lives. And what is it like when we just show up into that place? And then now what does engagement and culture look like?
Yeah. 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 I like the fact that what stops us playing like a 5-year-old? Oh, we have to have responsibilities, Steve. Really? Yeah, we do have responsibilities. That's clear, we do. But it doesn't stop you from enjoying your life, putting a smile on your face. Because you put a smile on your face, which is authentic, you pass it on to someone else, and they receive that as an authentic smile and a gesture to just
Mm.
saying hello. How often have we gone past someone in a street and just noticed them and connected with them with our eyes and just smiled?
Mm.
How often have you stood in a square and just stood there and just embraced that moment? That's a test to have a go and do, because when you do it, you've got a lot of people watching you, but it's a wonderful experience because you feel something that's happening that is
Yes.
different than from doing it before, where you would just walk past and you go, but just stand there and
Yeah,
notice who you are.
it's massive. And another way to look at that too, Richard, and you and I have probably talked to people that have been at the end of their life or have been battled cancer, or and I used to work as a respiratory therapist, so I was at the end of many people's lives. And one thing I never heard is a regret of I wish I would have worked more hours, or I wish I would have just consumed more stuff. It was always I wish I would have slowed down to notice the things you're talking about, smiling, saying hello. I wish I would have poured more into my relationships. I wish I would have done these things that, kind of the woulda, shoulda, coulda comes from that end of life. And you see it and you go, wow, I don't have to wait to the end of my life. I can actually do that now. Thinking about that, you got me thinking of like, what's good reminders? I know you have some, and I do too, in the sense of like, what's good reminders to ourselves to say, stop looking so far ahead and slow the heck down, and almost like smell the coffee. It's right, that aroma. It's like slow down. You had a good book that you referred to me a while back, and it just rocked me, called "Slowing Down to the Speed of Life." And but what you're talking about there is this: I'm slowing down. Like, what's some things that you've done, or even with your clients, right? When you go, man, you're rushing too far ahead. Think about some of the leaders that we work with, especially those that have busy on their schedule, and they're missing the journey. Their kids growing up, they're missing, talk about engagement. They're missing not seeing their staff, their managers. They're not pausing to notice if they're even smiling, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. You when you were sharing about that, I was thinking about the cartoon, the Roadrunner. Beep beep, you know.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Beep beep.
Uh-huh.
But he managed to stop and he'd look. Beep beep. Off he went. And then that's the same for us. We seem to be constantly rushing around
Mm-hmm.
and not just and not really how I mean, do you really appreciate when someone gives you that cup of coffee in the cafe shop? Do you notice the cakes that are on the stand and the preparation that was done and being curious how they were made and things like that? Have you noticed how you and I
Mm-hmm.
came about in creating our conversations together and how we reached out to each other? There's these moments are making us who we are being. We're human beings, and at the end of the day, we're not robots.
Mhm.
So we got to be understanding to ourselves. It's being kind to ourselves and understanding that, we do make errors, we do make mistakes, and there's nothing wrong with that. No point
Mhm.
beating yourself up over it. It's just noticing, observing it, and then at the same time, just saying, okay, as you said,
Mhm.
just slowing down. And that slowing down is going to be interpreted in so many different ways for so many people.
It is, right? That's a key too. When you think about this, it's almost like an intentional. How about this as homework for people is when you're in the grocery store, go through the slowest lane, the one that's not the fastest, like going to the longest line. So you're intentionally bumping into a stranger. I was thinking about this at Starbucks last week. I was sitting there and I don't know how it is in your neck of the woods in Europe, but here in America, faster, faster, faster. In fact, people order it in on the app. They get out of their car and it's handed right to them in their hand without a single hello, good morning, how are you doing? All that is wiped out. So when we think about engagement and culture, we go, wow, it's faster. This is great. It's fast. I don't have to talk to anybody. Yet I sat there and I go, I don't know if that's actually helped them engaging and participating and being involved in discussion and having the barista to smile and hand them their drink and that whole piece right there getting cut out, eliminated from without them consciously being aware of it. And I sat there and I watched while I was studying, and I go, I'm going to go to the front and pay for my drink intentionally in line. I'm going to slow down so I can smile and ask the barista how their morning is. I go, wow, that's a lost art. Certainly in America and I know Canada as well. And that idea where they seem faster gives me time back, but then I miss these pieces that were coming up in the Gallup poll. It's like engagement and culture. Well, I'm not showing up into that myself, and I expect my employer to be and do that for me. Yet I'm going to go to Starbucks or the grocery store or anywhere where I'm a consumer and I want it faster and I want it now, instant, and cutting out the engagement of me practicing engagement with the world around me. What do you think of that, Richard?
Yeah, well, when you were talking about that, what came to me was the community.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me here in Europe, originally you had your corner shop, was actually where you'd have a conversation with the local grocery person or the baker or the butcher. People, they were the community. They were talking and they were connecting, maybe gossip, whatever, if we wish to interpret that to be. But
Mm-hmm.
there was an engagement
Mm-hmm.
because there was a community. And there was a culture around them local villages and local shops that was helping the communities, was helping the businesses to grow. Because
Mm-hmm.
you know Joe Blogs, and Joe Blogs knew another Joe Blogs who could give you work or could give you an opportunity on something, or knew someone that could give you, be able to offer a service on something. So, yeah, I like the idea of AI, and I think technology is great. And the fast servicing, it's great, it's quick, it's simple, we're out and away. But as you said, we are missing something for our own experience. And I always use the metaphor with my clients is, you know, can you imagine your thoughts are like the passing the window of McDonald's?
Mm-hmm.
You open it up, whoop, thought pops in. Yeah, but that thought is there for a reason for you to experience something, and that experience is showing you something about you. Yeah,
Mm.
you can keep it closed and let them
Mm-hmm.
all pass by, but then you've got to open the window one day, take a thought in, and experience it. You
Yeah.
got you got to experience buying that milkshake. You got to experience buying the burger, for an example, if we do a fast food. But even restaurants do that now. You do a takeaway. It's
It's
fast food.
huge. When you think about it, Richard, it's like what if we're cutting time here, what are we rushing or saving time for? We gotta spend more quality time with our kids or we gotta go take more nature walks. Am I cutting down that time at the grocery store so that I can invest more? Usually not, right? Usually it's so that I can just rush around and not remember anything about my day. Like you said, it's and a lot of times I go back to these, almost to the older movies, the older shows, the older books, where it's, kind of like the Henry David Thoreau when he spent, I think, 2 years in a cab, or was it 1 or 2 years in a cabin and cut himself away from society. Now, most of us maybe can't do that financial wise, but it was a great lesson of when I get connected to who I am, like you mentioned with engagement, when I can slow down and I'm engaged. The second story I was going to add to that, Richard, you'll like this, is how I'm in one place. Why do I shift in another? So one could be I'm racing to and fro, not engaging. The other one is I was walking with a couple of police officers and law enforcement, amazing leaders, great men, and just humble servants in their community. And we're walking on the trail, just talking and coaching, and they're, hi, good morning. Kind of like the word here is happy trails. If you ever hike and people go happy trails, you hardly run into somebody who's like, what a crappy day. This is terrible. I should have done something else with my time. It's always good morning, hi, to strangers, complete strangers. But we're in that elevated state, right? And all of a sudden we go to say home, say our home in our community where we live, whether it's suburbia or rural, or if you live in the city, and all of a sudden it's like I have my head down, I don't say hi to my neighbor. Or in this case, for law enforcement, if they have the badge on and the uniform, and all of a sudden they change their interaction with culture. And as we were talking with them, I go, what shifts between the way I am here versus how I am there? Is it the fact that changed the environment, or I changed because of the way that I saw the environment I was stepping into? I was curious from you, like when we think about that in whether it's in the workplace too, where it's like if I'm engaged in my culture, it's, am I changing who I am when I go from my home, whether I'm in my community, whether I'm doing the hobby that I love to do, like hiking, or I'm stepping in and I'm leading in the workplace today, whether I'm running a business or I'm an employee that's working in a company, that how we're shifting ourselves or how we're changing ourselves when the thing outside didn't change. But it was our thought of how we entered into it that changed.
Nothing outside changes, just as it is. It's ourselves who interpret that and we label it. I'm labeled as a manager, for an example, or I'm labeled as as a receptionist, or I'm labeled as the person behind McDonald's counter. That labeling really puts us into a different zone, I would say. Like you said, for the law enforcement people that you took the walk on, when they put that identity on, I've got this uniform, this is who I am, it changed their perception, it changed their look at people, and it made them think in a different way. But why did they want to think in that way? What made them think? Well, because I put the uniform on. So, okay, but you've just walked up that mountain and you've just said hello to everyone, but no one knew who you were. But you had a choice. You just said hello. You could actually said hello, and I'm a police officer. But no, you just said hello because you're a human being to a human being. So what's the difference between putting a uniform on, for an example, the police, to you being the general Joe Bloggs in the street, just walking up and down and saying hello? There's no difference. Unless you think there is. Unless you think that you have to be that way.
That's it. Because who's creating the have to? Is it coming from somewhere else, someone else, or is it within my own perception, right? My own thinking. It's kind of where judgments, right, come in a lot of times, and assumptions, where it has no valid grounding or footing to it. It's just a thought of I have to put on my tie, I have to look the part, I have to be this way or act that way. When in reality is Like when we were hiking on the trail, that was the natural state of who we are in a relaxed state, elevated state, meaning we're coming from a place of love and service and just joy of being in the moment. Like you said, smiling naturally, seeing the flowers, saying hi to people when we don't normally maybe always do that in these other domains in our life. How can we be that in all areas of our life, right? And I know a lot of the work that you and I do spans into people coming to us because they want to figure out how to work through that in their lives and be that, and so as we're talking about today, it's really kind of that sprinkling in, like this idea of engagement and culture is us bringing ourselves into whether it's work, relationships, the community, as we're talking about. And it's not something that someone else is going to come and fix or make my life better, or I'll be happy when I have the right boss, or I'd be happy if my neighbor smiled to me.
It's
I
it's
can,
it's
yeah.
well, that's a beautiful conclusion
Mhm.
of what you're saying there. You have that choice, and it starts with you and the way you show up, and the way you think about things, and the way you are have beliefs about who you are and how the organization is and how the culture is. But them small steps, them small changes that you create do make a difference, although we may not see them because we have our blinkers on, or because we're looking in that direction instead of this direction.
Yeah.
And that really, for me, concludes
Mhm.
what we tried to share with you today, is that, this engagement culture aspect, the survey is showing that, okay, it's there. There's figures showing it, but we already know it's there. It's been there for centuries. It's just showing us that society is changing. Things are getting faster, things are getting more AI, etc., but we're still human beings. And having these conversations across the pond is part of that understanding and part of that experience and learning for us all to relearn again, to be learning something about ourselves. So I really thank Steve for this beautiful conversation, because it allows us now to continue exploring other points even
Mm,
raised up in here today. So
absolutely. What an honor. Thank you, Richard, for just your generosity, your openness, your way of being. Like we're modeling, I think, that today in engagement and culture, and just by having a conversation. I think this is as we wrap up, this is why Joe Rogan, you think about, for those that follow Joe Rogan on Spotify and he's known around the world, you go, man, he's the number one podcast person because he just has a real conversation and people miss and forget that piece. And that's what we're having today, is a conversation, maybe wrapped around a theme or an idea, but given it life, just the way that people are craving today. And now we're giving those practical steps to say, hey, you don't have to listen to a podcast to create that. You can just go outside and smile and say hi to your neighbor, hi to someone in the workplace, and start the engagement. But first, starting with yourself first, and coming from that place of I get to create this. I have choice. There's value in that. My identity is created from that place of which I come from, not something else. And so thank you, Rich. I'm excited for our next time together, brother. And I hope you have a wonderful evening across the pond, as I'm just starting my day now with, getting our kids off to camp, and just excited for possibility, just like being with you, elevated my state, elevated my joy just by interacting with you and engaging with you today. Thank you, Richard.
my blessings, and thanks, Steve, as well. Thanks to everyone listening, and we'll speak to you all again soon. Take care.
Awesome.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye now.